Well, welcome to another helpful video from the Goat Shed. Today we're going to talk about the Gottlieb coin stepper. Now, this is a stepper that was introduced in the middle 70s, and it replaced the long trip bag in the front of the earlier Gottlieb games, which had player 2, player 3, player 4. Now, this coin stepper is not to be confused with the player unit. The player unit is in the back box, the coin stepper is in the front, and they work hand in hand. So the coin stepper counts how many coins have been inserted into the machine to identify the amount of players that will be played. 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, 4 up. Where the player unit in the back controls what player is playing and what ball they're up to. So today is Tuesday, the 18th of January 2022. It's a partly overcast summer's day here, very, very humid, and it's going to be a maximum of about 25 degrees today, which is around about 75, 76 degrees Fahrenheit. So with these Gottlieb step units for the coin unit, the one we're looking at the moment from the rear is actually two styles, and the particular style this one is, it doesn't have a subtract pawl. If it had a subtract pawl, that would be on there, and this particular stepper is a total resetting stepper. So in other words, you count up, 3 is all it'll go, and when you reset, it steps all the way back. So there's the front of it. There, you can see that there. Now notice I've put a yellow mark on that. We use this particular stepper in our training courses, and there's a yellow mark there on the top, just so you know where it goes. There's a lot of connections on this. So once again, that's a total reset stepper. Now let's have a look at the mechanism. It's pretty much the same as any ordinary stepper which we've previously done videos on. So we have the zero stop here, and that's the zero stop position adjustment. We have, this is known as the reset arm here. We have the drive pawl just located down here. That's the drive pawl. Let's see if we can get in there a little bit better for you. Yeah, that's the drive pawl. The drive pawl will move in and out. That's a better view of the drive pawl there. We're pulling that in and out. This is a latch or a detent. So when we reset that, that will come off, drop up, and that falls in front of the pawl, so it can't drive till that falls off. Push the detent down and it moves forward. Okay, a detent is a spring-loaded lock. And this arm here is the drive arm, and the coil casing. The coil casings often break. Let's bring that back to normal. Well, the coil casings often break across here. Haven't seen one on a coin unit, but they do break on the a lot of the bonus units where they're going whack, whack, whack all the time. And this here, of course, this is the drive arm up stop. So that's the stop that limits how far the drive arm can go after it touches. That's the top end of the coil stop. So the plunger's hitting the coil stop and the drive arm is striking here. They often break across there, so you've got to be wary of that. That's very, very common. And even notice this one's actually got a set screw missing out of there. So I recently acquired some of these set screws. I forget the exact size now. Bear in mind we're in Australia and it's hard to get a lot of imperial stuff, but I managed to obtain some set screws, which is good for me, because we need them. Otherwise you just have to put an ordinary flathead screw in there. Now here we have the coin unit we're actually going to be working on. Now this coin unit has the subtract pawl on it. So this coin unit is a subtracting coin unit, and they use that to go back for the match feature from memory. You can see there on the label it completes the circuit to the match lights, and it opens the circuit to the replay button. So as the machine game overs, that steps back incrementally. So we're going to be working on this particular one. Someone's actually had this apart and it's all out of whack. In other words, this pin here, when we drive it round, is not really doing anything, and that's stepping multiple times. It should only step 3 times. So it's out of whack, and I'm pretty certain that this is all out of whack as well. That's it stepping back. So we'll have to fix that. We'll have to have a look at that. Now that's not going to be hard to work out, because all you do, you just disconnect the earth strap off it and short that out the ground while you put the wiper arm on there and just change it, manually change it till you get it where you want it. It's not difficult. So yeah, we're going to be working on this coin unit today, so we'll go and take that right out of the machine. We'll put that in the ultrasonic cleaner and we'll get it all cleaned up. Now I know we've done videos on step units before, many times, but these are a coin unit, which still is a stepper, but it will need the same amount of work that all the steppers do. So I'm going to pull that apart now. So to remove these units, what we do is we loosen the screws on the switch stacks here, so we can take that switch stack off and it'll just hang there. We desolder the wires. This is that orange wire there is a follow through from the common from the other side. Desolder those. They're part of the wiring loom. So once we've done that, there's the wires there, the common, the black one. Is the power to the coil here. That's the power to the reset coil. This one here is the power to the step up coil. And now all that we need to do is just remove the screws on the base. So one screw to go there, and the whole assembly will come out, and I can put it on the bench and work on it so much more easily and comfortably than trying to do it in the machine or even there on the motorboard. Now once you've done all that, the only thing that remains to do is to remove this plate with the 3 screws there, and then that will expose the 2 nuts just in there, one on that side, on the back of the other plate. Then we can slide the unit out. So it's quite simple. What I failed to mention as well is that it's very important that you mark where this plate comes from at reset. It'll make it a little bit easier for you to put it back on. This particular one, we can tell someone's been fiddling with it because it was way out of whack. So we'll just have to put it where we think it is and then fiddle with it when we get it back in the machine to make sure it's right. But hopefully I can get it right first go. Always a challenge. Once you've undone that screw there, that's a 1/8 of an inch Allen key. You can take that, I call that a spider. That just comes off in your hand. And then all we've got to do is undo these 2 nuts there, one there and one there. They're 1/4 inch nuts. So once we get the spin tight on that and take them off, that plate will come off. We can take the whole frame out. Easy. So now we have the frame out of the machine. We're able to work on it, but the first thing I want to point out to you is that this has definitely been disassembled and not been put back together correctly. We can tell that the peg here, which is one of the pegs that opens the switch or closes, whatever the case might be, is resting hard against the torsion spring extension, here. See that? Now that shouldn't be the case. And the 0 position peg, which is that's the back end of it there, that should be down here a bit further, resting against the 0 stop. So that's definitely not right. Now to prove that, we can just lift the reset pawl or subtract pawl out of the road. We can press and hold in the reset arm, and you can see that hitting the spring. See the spring's moving? Now that's not the case, that's all out of whack. So when we put that back together, we'll show you how to rectify that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this down now. Now I'm not sure if it's necessary to show everyone the stripping down process. I guess we can. It's relatively straightforward. We'll just put that pawl back in there. What I'm going to do is I'll take the coil case off the screws off the back. We'll get the whole coil case out. I'll take the circlip off the back of here. We'll just undo the springs at each end, and we're going to undo that screw there. That's the shoulder screw. Now that's a longer style shoulder screw. So essentially my other stepper that I had earlier on, all I needed to do, if I wanted to make that a subtracting stepper, all I've got to do is change that shoulder screw there to a longer style, add a subtract pawl to it, and that spring, and then I've got myself a subtracting stepper. It's that simple. There's no other things necessary. I doubt anyone would ever have to do that, but you could do it just in case, because remember, Gottlieb made all their frames and parts interchangeable, well, pretty much like all the manufacturers did. So that makes it quite simple to do. So we turn this over, and here's this very important nut that you must undo off the back of the shoulder screw. Now sometimes they get very tight, and I like to put a drop of penetrating oil on there, or even WD-40 if you haven't got penetrating oil. If it's really tight, let it soak for 10-15 minutes, and at the same time slightly loosen, slightly tighten, slightly loosen, slightly tighten, till eventually it will come off. They are easy to break, but never fear, they are available from PBR if you do break them, but it's helpful not to try and break them. They're the two screws I'm talking about here. For the coil casing, there's just one there and one there. Just make a note, you can see roughly where they'll go, because they adjust the drive of the pawl, where the pawl sits in the teeth. You need about a tooth gap in the, not gap, stroke on that pawl. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to pull those screws apart or out, take the coil casing out, and then we'll do the rest. So here we are. So we've removed the coil casing, we've got that all out. There's the plunger, it's all filthy dirty, so that'll all have to get cleaned and polished. Now the torsion spring, we like to take that out from the top. I mean, you can pull it out from this end, but we find it easy to take out from the top. Once you bend the spring a little bit, or the bottom of the spring out of the road, you can just lift it up and out, and then the whole escapement wheel will come out. Oh, look at that, it fell back in. Great for camera work. There it goes, it's out again. You wouldn't do that if you got paid. So there's the escapement wheel out. It needs cleaning up. Always inspect the teeth on the wheel. We have a good look at the teeth. Make sure none are worn or got an edge on them. You can file them out if they do. We've seen that a lot on bonus units. So now all that remains, the A256 stop is not broken, which is good news. The drive pawl isn't too bad, but we're going to take the nut off the back. We've unhooked the springs. We've unhooked the spring off here. So all that remains to be doing now is to just turn that over. What we'll do, we'll get our 5/16 nut driver. Whoops, 11/32 for that one. I should know better. 11/32 nut driver. We'll undo that nut, And this will allow us to take the... So off comes a nut. That's magnetised, so we'll pull that out of there. Turn that back over. And then we can simply undo that screw there. Pretty simple. Getting more used to this gimbal thing now, so now there's a washer on there as well. So I just like to take that out, and I always like to put the other washer back on and just screw the nut on a little bit. That gets going. See, there's all dirt and gunk on that as well. That all needs to be cleaned, and that will get done. Notice we have this metal tray. Now they're quite good for keeping your parts in. The only downside is if you drop anything on the rug there, it can stick to the bottom. So if you've lost something, always look to the bottom of that metal tray. We find them very, very useful. We've got about 3 or 4 of those. Alright, so now all I've got to do is simply turn this over, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that, I'm going to put some penetrating oil on the nut on the back. I'm going to get my 5/16 inch and undo those two so I can take the coil and bracket out. So that's what remains to be done. So there you can see that red liquid I've got on there, the back of that nut. That's the penetrating oil I refer to. Now, I did have a go at undoing that. It was a little bit tight, and we do have new ones in stock. You know, I've been guilty of breaking these, but we try not to these days. So that's the go. I've got that ready to come out, and that shoulder screw's got to go in and get cleaned as well, because they generally get dirty. Even though the reset arm and the subtract pawl were relatively free, I still like to pull them out and clean them as best as I can. It makes it do a more positive job, so you know that it's been done and you'll never have to do it again, ever, I don't think. Well, hopefully the machine lasts another 40 odd years. What's Joker Poker? 1978. Yeah, because SS games were made as well. So yeah, there you go. So I'll pull that off now, and then I'm going to wash all the parts. Righto, so continuing on with this Joker Poker, we've now cleaned all the parts in the ultrasonic cleaner, and we're ready to start reassembly. But the thing I wanted to point out firstly was, you will recall that we said that the escapement wheel wasn't at 0 position. So that's the 0 stop right there, and it's supposed to rest against there. Now it wasn't doing that, it was out, it was sort of resting up there somewhere. So the trick here is the way you put it in the game. Now just one other thing, there's no teeth missing. A lot of people think there's teeth missing. That's cut out deliberately so it can't step any further. The drive pull just slips over there and can't drive anymore. So pretty much all steppers that reverse or have a limit on how many steps they can make are like that. The exception of the rule would be like a 0 to 9 unit stepper on one of the older games. They're a one-way stepper. So simply with this, all you need to do is pop that unit wheel, I should say, in there, just with the you can see the head of the stop, the start I should say there, pop it in and get it on the right side, and it should only go to there, like that. So once again, that's the stud, it needs to rest against the stop. So that's your 0 position stop. That is adjustable, as you'll note. There is a a slotted screw here, and that's elongated. You can just see the edge of the, probably just see the edge of the hole there, where it is elongated. You seldom have to adjust that unless someone else has mucked around with it. And the whole idea of that, I'll illustrate to you in just a moment when I get this back together. We've got to have it all back together and the springs all connected. So we're just going to put this back together in the reverse order. As you can see, everything's been cleaned up. All the parts are clean. We've done the subtract pull. There it is. Plunges are all nice and clean now. Drive arm, it's all done, and it's all nice and free. Falls under its own weight, which is good. So we're going to reassemble this now. There's the reset arm. That's the one where the shoulder screw goes through. I always get like a Q-tip and put through all the holes in any of them here as well. Just cleans it up, and there too. And then finish up by pushing a bit of rag in with a bit of isopropyl on it. So alright, I'm going to go and put this back together now, and then I'm going to show you how the adjustments go. So let's put it back together in the reverse way that you pulled it apart naturally enough. Righto, so we've got this unit completely reassembled again now, and now it's time to check our adjustments. So the first adjustment is to ensure that the zero stop is adjusted correctly, and the idea of that is that the reset arm must fall correctly back into the tooth like that. If it was to catch, that reset arm would need adjusting, but that one's fine. Now our next adjustment is to ensure that the drive pull itself only steps up only travels half a tooth after it's stepped. So operate that, in we go, let it go. It's a little hard to see, I think, there, but that pull has only gone half a tooth. Let's try and get that in a bit better for you. How am I going to do that? Right, okay, so those gimbals are good, but the battery went flat on it, so we'll just have to change to hand operation. So you watch the pull. We're going to operate it. It drives up, down half a tooth. Again, and now we're at the limit. So we'll just reset to do it again. Okay, so up half a tooth. That's adjustable by adjusting the coil casing up and down. There's two screws at the back, and you can adjust that casing up or down. The other adjustment you have to do is by holding up the drive arm, you want that stop there to be resting on the metal. Now I use a sheet of paper. I've demonstrated this previously in other videos, so I'm going to need to loosen that screw there and that screw there and adjust that so my bit of paper just drags in and out. Once I've done that, this is all fully adjusted and ready to go back in the machine. The only other adjustment that you sometimes need to do, we've already illustrated how the drive arm at the zero position should fall cleanly into the tooth. It should fall cleanly into the tooth after it's driven. So it's down and it's driven, and we make sure it's cleanly into the tooth at that point as well. Now if it's not, that's adjustable by this stop here where the spring is, that stop. Rarely do you have to adjust that, but if it's clear, if someone's been mucking around with the screws, you can see they've been chewed off. That's what you do. Okay, so like I said, this is fully adjusted now, and it's ready to go back in the machine. So we're going to set that back up in the machine and put the plate back on and show you how to set that in. Right, okay, so this is all back in the machine now, and it's working fine. I mentioned earlier that this only stepped up 3 times. In fact, this does step up 4. So player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4. Won't go any further because the cutout in the escapement wheel's there. Now we'll step it back, and then when it's back it closes both those switches. So the switch on the right hand side of the screen is the one that will open when you've reached maximum 4 players, so it can't step anymore. The switch on the left is for the match lights, so it'll turn on when we start to get back to the end. Now the plate is lined up so the 3 lower contacts are on the first 3 rivets. That's where I believe it goes, and I'm pretty sure I'm right because it covers it right through the step process. And then back again. Like I said, it's easy adjustable if it's not. Now we hope this video was informative for you and it's taught you a little bit about the Gottlieb coin stepping unit. As we've said before, we do these videos to try and make it easier for you to repair your machines, and we greatly appreciate you giving us the thumbs up on our videos and subscribe to our channel. So this has been another Goat Shed presentation.